Hello, good afternoon, all the viewers for this webinar on the geoheritage and geosites pertaining to Chilka, Konark, and Bhubaneswar. And as you are very much aware that this is an interesting geological panoramic site in the coastal area of Odisha, and which will be presented by Dr. B.M. Farooq. And Odisha geology particularly is very interesting, having it is oldest rock which dates back to 4.24 billion years to the recent and very active delta of the present day, which is going at the Baitarani river. And Odisha itself is having the geological panorama starting from the Archean to the recents. However, we are going to the topic of the recent presentation, which will be done by B.M. Farooq for the Geopark, pertaining to Bhubaneswar, Chilka, and Konark. So this is a coastal site, and Bhubaneswar, particularly, it is the temple city, which is very famous for its oldest temples that dates back to the construction site of 7th century. And prior to that, there is an inscription by King Ashoka in the Khondalites near the Dhauli hills, and that Khondalite is an inlayer within and surrounded throughout by the upper Gondwana Ardgod sandstone. So this is the architectural marvels of the 7th century and the Lingaraj temples, which dates back to the 11th century. So that is the standing of the Bhubaneswar town, Ashokani inscription on the Dhaulis, Bhubaneswar temples, which is made up of the upper Gondwana sandstones, and the panoramic view of the Udayagiri and Khandagiri, which is the cave sites, that is well within the upper Gondwana sandstones and very well known of the 1st century BC to the 1st century AD. And all these things, all these caves are famous for the Jainic architectural things which was there. So that is the marble of the Bhubaneswar. From Bhubaneswar, we will be going to Konark, the Black Pagoda site, which is very famous for this one, for the sculptures in the Khondalites, and which was built in the 13th century AD, just on the shoreline side. And the shoreline itself, since that historical past of the 13th century, it has migrated to nearly 3 kilometers inside or towards the seaside. At the sea level has regressed in this position for nearly 3 kilometers. And the interesting part of the Konark is it's the sculptures, very much interesting for this one, and this is a World Heritage Site. And in this coastal place, bringing the Khondalites from the distance place during 13th century is a question mark now, how far they have brought it to this place and constructed such a site here. So this is what I think he will be presenting. It will be presented by B.M. Farooq, and from here we will be going to the Chilka Lake, the largest lake within the India, and moreover not in India, it is the largest lagoon in the Asia. And this is all because of the Holocene sea level was not at the present, and it was much higher than the past, and Chilka Lagoon is the cutoff one from the higher sea levels. And Chilka, another marvel of the Chilka is the anorthositic emplacement which has taken place. And anorthosite, you know very much that how much interesting it is, and it is the plutonic rock which is exposed near the Balugaon as well as near the Rambha. And there are some sea level high also probably it will be discussed by Dr. B.M. Farooq. And from Chilka, we are going back to Bhubaneswar. And before going back to Bhubaneswar, I will be just giving a brief of Dr. B.M. Farooq, who is an expert both in exploration of the on land as well as the offshore geology. On land, he has extensive work in the iron ore group of mines, iron group exploration as well as the cassiterite. And from there, he has gone to Ethiopia as a teaching profession, and he established the geological department in the Asmara University and stayed there for 6 years with a beginning and very lucid beginning for him, and he completed this one and came back again to India and joined the marine geology or the marine wing of JSI and continued there having his interest in the shoreline and as well as the offshore exploration, offshore mapping, and the particular the sea level. His interest of the subject is the sea level changes during this Holocene period, which he has worked it and very extensively, and he's has represented various IGCP programs. 464, he was the convener for the National Working Group, and he chaired the session in St. Petersburg. And in this regard also, two international publications he has made in the Geological Society of London, both for the West Coast and the East Coast. And subsequently, he was a member of the IGCP 476 and 588, as well as 639 IGCP. He presented the subject in the Oman, Estonia, and Italy, and he was supposed to go to China last year because of the falling health. He could not make it. So his extensive work in the marine and the coastal survey probably is very exemplary here. And apart from that one, he represents the Institution of Geoscientists Odisha, a forum of the retired geoscientists of Odisha, and he as the founder president of that one, and we are all pursuing in that respect for the geoheritage sites, preservation of them, finding that one, and going ahead with these ones. I wish that the presentation will be extensively well and it will be done by Dr. B.M. Farooq. So B.M. Farooq may kindly take it over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mahapatra. Mr. Girja Prasad Mahapatra, retired Additional Director General of Geological Survey of India. We were together for quite some time in marine geology and had the pleasure of working with him. I thank this platform for giving me this opportunity to present a concept, I will call it a concept, on the configuration of a possibly in future a geopark in this area. Let me tell you from the beginning that this area where I'm now going to present my rather findings with the work of researchers from different parts, different institutes. I have pulled them together in one place and try to make a interesting track to visit some places of interest in this southern part of coastal Odisha. We come to this is the track. We start from Bhubaneswar without any, in the morning, say we reach Konarak, and at Konarak, we visit the temple. Then the track actually goes to Puri, from Puri to Satpada, and then we take a boat across the Chilka Lake to Rambha, where we have the first night halt. Next day, we visit some places in Gopalpur and Tampara Lake, and we return to Bhubaneswar, have a night halt, and then visit some place in the morning, next day. Coming to this proposal for possible geopark, I'll start with this. The total solar eclipse of 1980 brought a lot of scientists from all over the world to this location at Konarak. Now look at this track which traverses across Africa and then comes to India, and it touches Konarak and it crosses over to China. This track falling along the temple's location is probably a coincidence, but I wonder if it is more than just a mere coincidence, whether this track has something to do with the Sun Temple's location. It is just my inquisitive question. Now we come to the construction of this temple, which was done in the 12th, 13th century on 1250, in the year 1250, with 1200 workers for 12 years. The king Nrsimha Deva I of the Eastern Gang dynasty had this idea of having a sun temple, and the Surya culture existed in India right from time immemorial. It was also prevalent in Kashmir, but it took a shape. It manifested into the formation of this Konarak temple at Konarak in the 13th century. It is a magnificent work of sculpture in the history of Orisian Kalinga architecture, Kalinga temple style of temples. The temple, replete with a huge amount of sculptures covering the entire panel, entire surface of the temple, on subjects of various aspects. There are structures on peace, on agriculture, to war and struggle of men, women, and children, art, performance art, and endless variety of animals are carved on the temple. Replete with erotic and amorous figures, the monument brings a sensuous beauty and celestial sublimity to blessed union. The temple, built from stone and oriented in such a way that the first rays of the sun, as it rises on the Bay of Bengal, reaches the deity, the main sanctum sanctorum, through the main entrance. But what happened? There is a story that during the construction of the temple, the chief architect, Bisu Maharana, was unable to place the cupola, that is on the top. And his son, whom he could not actually identify because he was camping in this area for long 12 years, his son, who was only 12-year-old, had come, and on learning that the king had actually threatened to punish the workers if this work was not completed overnight, his son was Dharampad Maharana, who was able to place the cupola on the top, but in order to save his father from embarrassment, he committed suicide. He committed suicide by jumping from the top of the temple and the story goes that there was a Chandrabhaga river meandering by the side of the temple. Temple was built on the coastline, very close to the sea, and this river was also there. This river had huge sacred values for the people living there, and a festival used to be held there every year to commemorate the birth of the sun god. Konarak symbolizes, I think it is just not a temple, and because of the death of our chief architect's son by committing suicide, the temple could not go ahead with its purpose of worshipping the god, sun god. So the worship could not take place in the temple, and temple was kind of abandoned, and it went into oblivion for nearly 350 years. Later, then during the time British rule, it was discovered in a heap of sand. The entire thing had been covered by dunes, shifting sand. The main structure of the temple, because it is in the Kalingan style, there are two parts of the temple. The main part is called Deolo, and the part which is now existing is called Jagmohan. So Jagmohan remained, which was shorter in the size and dimension. The main Deolo, which actually used to would have held the deity of sun god, had crumbled due to the vagaries of nature, weathering, and perhaps the structure was huge, enormous. British government actually took interest in restoring whatever they could. They had some very eminent architect invited to look at the temple and then see if they could save it. What they did was, they found that the structure which remained, this Jagmohan, it had to be protected. In order to protect this Jagmohan, they closed all the entrances, sealed rather all the entrances, and filled the entire structure with sand. And perhaps that is why it is still surviving. Of course, Archaeological Survey of India has taken over, and they are doing a lot of work to restore the glory and the aesthetic part of the temple. Work is on, maintenance work is going on, but still it is not out of threat of further destruction, unfortunately. Now, coming to its location, on the bank of river Chandrabhaga. Chandrabhaga was a small river, and all the ancient literature connected with Konarak temple mention the presence of Chandrabhaga. But the Chandrabhaga river is not traceable today. It is probably buried under the sand. It is not there at all. But yes, perhaps a small part of the river downstream, very close to the sea, is left behind as a lake, in the form of a lake. And there, the people assemble every year, once in every year. That is called Magha Saptami, when they assemble sometime in the month of, I think, November. And they hold a mela, and then they worship the rising sun in the morning and pray to the sun god. But the sacred river Chandrabhaga, which has disappeared in the course of time, it has hampered to many such small rivulets in the southern part of the Mahanadi Delta. This could have been a distributary of Mahanadi. A lot of small rivulets starting from almost from Cuttack. This distributaries ramify into different directions, and those meandering down to the southern part of the delta, that is between Puri and Konarak to Satpura and Chilka, most of the rivers do not have enough flow of water. That is why it is actually due to sluggish flow or due to change in the topography, probably these rivers are dying out. Daya and Bhargavi also had the same fate. And here, what has happened to Chandrabhaga has almost completely disappeared. The academicians from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, took up this matter, this issue of tracing the lost river Chandrabhaga. They took up a project, and it was very recently, I think in the year 2015, they carried out, starting from remote sensing to this GPR, ground penetration radar survey. They carried out, and they have been able to locate traces of this. Now, if you see this trace within the yellow rectangle is the trace of Chandrabhaga River. This is a meander which starts here, I think, and then it comes here. Now, this again, they have come to the conclusion that this river, Chandrabhaga, is seen as if it is traveling, it is meandering to the north of the temple. They are still not very sure of its joining the sea here, where now that lake, Chandrabhaga Lake, exists here. And the people, devotees come and assemble in this part of the lake, in this part of the beach, close to the beach. It is their conjecture that this could have been the trend of the river which meets the sea here. But otherwise, this part is very well established. This meander has been very well established, and there is no doubt about it, because they have also seen a V-shaped valley in the ground penetration radar. That settles that Chandrabhaga River has been discovered. Now, coming to the formation on which this temple has been constructed and the rocks with which the temple has been constructed are two aspects of geology which normally catches the attention of any geoscientist. Within a radius of 50 kilometers from the temple, you do not find the rock Khondalite which has been used for the construction of this temple. The nearest probably is Dhauligiri, which is of Khondalite, but then that is too small an outcrop to provide such a huge volume of rocks for the construction of this temple. But then further northwest of Dhauligiri, there are some outcrops of Khondalite, which with my imagination, I can say this much, that is the nearest source of Khondalite. But we don't know. Not many literature have ever, mentioned about the source rock for this temple. But another interesting part of the story is that Konarak temple was constructed much nearer to the shoreline. And the shoreline here has been accreting during the late Holocene period. The accretion has been, there was a study taken up by Geological Survey of India at Bhubaneswar, Odisha unit. They have been able to determine the rate of accretion, which varies from 2.47 to 3.7 meter per year. And the shoreline has now shifted to about 3 kilometers from the temple. So this is one aspect of geological process which has affected the location of the temple in some way. And we can now switch over to the formation along the coast, Holocene formation along the coast, which can be seen as we travel. And also we can also try to find the sequence of events that took place with the change of sea level. Here to the east of this map shows to the east of Konarak temple, there is a river, which is also another distributary of Mahanadi, debouching. This river is Devi, debouching into the Bay of Bengal, just about, I think, 27 kilometers from here, from Konarak temple. And a beach ridge, older beach ridge, is dated to be 5,880 years before present. As we proceed towards west, we see in Puri also, it is possible to see the paleo shoreline, and it is indicated by the presence of two lakes, Sar and Samang. These two lakes do not almost have disappeared in the sense that these are now huge areas of marshy swamps. It's no more a lake. It's no more a lake. I'm just using the word lake because it used to be there, and it was very much there in the old maps. But today you can see only swamp, and we can have the paleo shoreline shown here in the blue line with a blue line. Puri temple is a place where people can. I mean, it is one of the 4 dhams of India. And the most important part of Puri temple is the car festival, the Rath Yatra, which was held recently on 23rd June. And when all the 3 idols of Lord Jagannath and the siblings are taken out on a procession. So when it is available for everybody to see. This is a great festival, and people do come to see from far off places. There is a village close to Puri. It's a short distance. One can go there for the purchase of, it is a craft village where all kinds of handicraft products are sold there, made there. It's a village where a lot of people who reside there are engaged in the making of crafts. Particularly, there are 2 particular type of craft which is very famous in this area. Patachitra is pictures painted on silk, and Talapatra paintings on the palm leaves, painting on the palm leaves are done by great artists residing in this village. And this village has been constructed, developed as a heritage village devoted to the purpose of this craftsmanship. These are what you can see in Raghurajpur village, which is very close to the temple. Now we drive another, say, 45 kilometers from Puri, further southwest to the Chilka Lake. Chilka Lake, the formation of Chilka Lake itself is another manifestation of the sea level changes. Originally, before Chilka Lake came into being, the shoreline of eastern Orissa, eastern India, was in this manner. This is it's a very freehand drawing of what used to be during the tertiary, and then how it changed during the Pleistocene. You see, these are the rivers which are distributaries of Mahanadi are debouching into the lake. This entire thing from the tertiary down to Pleistocene is all deltaic sediment. Deltaic sediment brought by Mahanadi distributaries, Daya and Bhargavi rivers here, debouching here on the north of would be Chilka Lagoon. And from south, we have another river here, Rushikulya, which has been providing a lot of sediments. Rushikulya has been providing a lot of sediments, which helped in the development of a spit from south, following the littoral current from southwest to northeast. The spit started growing from south, and the deltaic growth of Mahanadi Delta started from northeast to southwest. And finally, in the Holocene, the entire thing was closed with a small connection, with a small link between the sea and the lake. That is how the Chilka Lagoon remained a lagoon with saline water. And because of this saline water, the biodiversity in the lake has been very rich. And sometimes, due to sluggish flow of water from these rivers, it has almost become, there is no flow of water. So Chilka Lake developed. The mouth of the Chilka Lake with a Bay of Bengal was clogged. It had to be dredged open because by the closure of the mouth of the Chilka Lake, the salinity of the lake dropped, because only due to rainwater filling the lake and then desiccation taking place. So there was no intake, no coming in of seawater, circulation of seawater, and that resulted in the loss of biodiversity. So it had to be reconnected by dredging. So this is now being maintained. A Chilka Development Authority has come up to look after all these aspects of the lake, and it is doing the job. Very close to, now when you go to Chilka, on the this is a place here, there is a place called Satpada, and this circle here is the mouth, and very close to the mouth there is a village, Manikpatna. Manikpatna was one of the major ports of Odisha. Palur port was here, and Manikpatna was actually a subsidiary to Palur port. Palur port was located here, ancient port here. But even Manikpatna had international commercial relation with Southeast Asian countries, Indonesia particularly, Sri Lanka, and even to China. There are, excavations here in Manikpatna. The archaeologists have been able to discover a lot of potteries and also other wares which they used to import. And there are also coins from different countries have been discovered. This is one of the coins. Ancient port Manikpatna. It had connections with many countries on the west also. Even wares from Rome also have been found by the workers here. This port also had a very curiously, very interestingly, oil lighthouse, which was used to be lighted with oil, burning with oil on a stone pillar or in a stone like this. They used to burn oil for the purpose of making it a lighthouse. And this port was located inside the lake, not right on the beach, on the main Bay of Bengal beach. So it was a very safe passage to get into the harbor and then berth near the village Manikpatna. This is work done by Sheila Tripathi and Patra, Dr. B. Patra. They have published literature which I have actually included in this from their work. These are the tracks along which these people used to sail to these countries, starting from Indonesia, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and all that. And to the west also, they have mentioned in the literature. Coming to Chilka Lake. Chilka Lake is a wonderful, lagoon, and spread over a sprawling 1100 square kilometer. It has actually shrunken from a larger area to this today. It also swells some another 100 square kilometer during the rainy season. There is a little fluctuation, but otherwise it is roughly 1100 square kilometer area, and a storehouse of huge biodiversity, starting from crab, fishes, and prawns, and which is provided as a source of income for the fishermen. All in the villages, 132 villages, some 150,000 fishermen earn their livelihood from this lake. And in addition to this, there are migratory birds of huge variety which fly down to this lake during winter. As far as from Russia, Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan, Turkey, those places, Central Asia, and Himalayas, and of course many parts of India, North India, during the winter season where it gets very cold there. These birds migrate to this lake, and then it makes a wonderful feast for people who love watching birds. And bird watching has become a big source of income for the villagers. And in the village Mangalajodi, there are some shelters, houses, cottages where people could enjoy bird watching and ethnic food. Now in Chilka, there is another interesting geological feature. There is a rock called anorthosite, which exists only in a very few pockets in Odisha. Now, there are two outcrops. There are two locations where anorthosite has been located within the Eastern Ghat host rocks. Anorthosite in Chilka is located here in Balugaon, and the other is in Rambha. We were now going to take you to Rambha. This is as you travel, Satpada is here. From Satpada, we take a boat and sail down to Rambha. And Rambha provides a picturesque view of the lake. Lake has got a lot of areas to be seen. Like islands are there, boating can be done, and well, food is another attraction, seafood particularly. This is that anorthosite outcrop hill near Rambha. Now this anorthosite, which we are seeing, where we have this solution cavities due to the rise of sea level. Anorthosite is a very rare rock on the surface of the earth, and we have got just two occurrences here in the Chilka Lake, and one more is there somewhere in Balangir. And what is actually interesting about this, that it is a rare rock on the earth. It is a deep-seated rock. It is mainly monomineralic. Anorthite mineral is the composition of the rock, and the date of the rock, it has intruded into the Eastern Ghats, has been placed at 850 million years by our GSI geologist Amitabh Sarkar and his associates, and one N. Chatterjee has dated it 983 million years. Now there are differences in another age. Another worker has dated it 855, and they are now one of the authors, I think N. Chatterjee, is now linking it with the breakup of Rodinia. Though this rock is a deep-seated rock, it is rare on the surface of Earth. It is a very common rock on the moon. All the highlands of the moon are made up of anorthosite. And that is why this becomes an interesting. We can sell it to the tourists that this rock can be seen only on the moon, not in many parts of the Earth, our planet. Now, interesting thing is that this rock has undergone dissolution, chemical dissolution due to alkaline water, and the rock has developed such huge cavities eaten away by the alkaline water. And this feature is seen only up to an elevation of some 8 meters, roughly. And above that level, between 7 and 8 meter, up to 7 and 8 meter, it is seen. Above that, you don't find such solution features. This solution feature has been caused by a rise of sea level up to, say, I don't know, 8 meters at least. This hill is known as Ghantasila Hill, and somewhere at a moderate height, around 8 or 9 meters above the sea level, present sea level, we find this type of concretions, lime concretions, and also some material which give the impression of a beach rock. Here, some work was done by Venkat Ratnam. Venkat Ratnam has published a paper in Marine Geology in 1970 where he has found lime concretions, he has found Austria fossil shells, has dated them to be 3,750 years BP, and Annandale and Kemp, two scientists from Zoological Survey of India, have also reported the presence of coral. But they also mentioned that coral of very limited extent has been seen, but the shell bed are rather extensive as reported by Venkatratnam. I had the opportunity of taking this traverse on the Ghantasila Hill, and I've seen both the shell, Austria shell, and this lime concretions, this lime concretions, shell, and of course something which gives the impression of a beach rock, which is now located at least 8 meters above the sea level. It was not very easy to measure the elevation, but however, somehow with the help of GPS and some estimation, I think it was about located at 8 meters above the present sea level. They have recorded both Mr. Venkatratnam and Annandale, who was a zoologist from Zoological Survey of India. They have reported the existence of both shell, coral, and the lime concretions, which are all pointing to the rise of sea level to 9 meters above the present sea level. But then I had the opportunity of working on other parts of eastern coast and Kerala coast, and I have found signatures of rise of sea level during the late Holocene, or from mid Holocene onward. The sea level, which was actually lowered down to 120 meter water depth, 122 meter water depth during the last glacial cycle. After the setting in of deglaciation and the global warming, sea level started rising and reached the present level sometime around 6,500 or so, and then started rising. So around 6,000 years BP, sea level had risen to around 4.5 meters in other parts of the peninsula. I've collected, I can show you just one or two slides to give you this impression. This is at Rishikonda in Vishakhapatnam. You can see the notches here. These notches are developed up to a maximum of 3.75 meters above the present sea level. And another notch, it is in the Andaman. I have actually visited this and located this, and this also does not seem to be more than 3 meters. Yeah, there are several. I'm just showing one for the sake of your information. So wherever you go, we get 4 meters. Even in Tugidam of Andhra Pradesh, we have notches made by the Holocene sea level rise, but nowhere we find more than 4.5 meters. Say maximum, some workers in Singapore, they have recorded 5 meters. So nowhere we find more than 5 meters. Even in Varkala also, I have seen the wave cut notches, which does not exceed more than 5 meters. Now, how do we explain this? Venkatratnam in his paper also has mentioned this problem and has explained this with an element of tectonic uplift. And I think when I presented this in 2019 in IGCP 639 in Italy, and I had a discussion with the workers from other countries, especially the project leader, Simon, who was from USA. And everybody was of the opinion that tectonic uplift might have taken. Otherwise, to reach 9 meters in the Holocene is not supported by the sea level rise in other parts of the country, other parts of India. So, based on the existence of these features, solution on the rock up to that level, the beach rocks probably, and the lime concretions, and the coral reported by Anandel. I have collected some samples, but I am not very sure because it is highly mutilated sample of probably a coral, but then I will go by what Geological Survey of India has reported. They have reported specifically at 9 meter level. And along this line, if you draw a profile, it gives you this picture. During the high sea level stand, where solution cavities are seen at 7.5 meters, even 8 meters are also there, solution cavities. This is not making a uniform groove as we see in the notches. Particularly, it is seen in Tugidam. The sea level rise here, during that time, the entire Bay of Bengal was covering up to the what is now the part of the lake. So we have the first slide I had shown you during the tertiary, where the shoreline of Bay of Bengal was the northern shoreline of the present lake. So this is the northern part, and this is the southern part of the Bay of Bengal. So the entire thing was Bay of Bengal, and there was no this spit or even the delta growth probably from the other side. But it might have been there anyway because of the rise of the sea level above the present sea level, say, has submerged this spit, whatever little spit was there, and the spit was in the formation, in the stages of formation, and subsequently the sea level also got, it reached, say, 5 meters elevation from the present sea level, and then came down to the present level during the late Holocene period. So, and then it had formed the solution cavities here at that level, which is now showing there at 8 meters above the present sea level. Now, 5 meters plus maybe another 3 meters by tectonic uplift. Here you can see, I have mentioned here, this 9 meter coral reported by Anandel and Kemp from Zoological Survey of India, which Venkatratnam has mentioned in his paper, and his sample of shell collected from higher level has dated 3,750 years BP. We now understand how Chilka evolution took place and the formation of the spit, which grew from the sediments dumped by Rushikulya River, and it started and taken over by longshore current, and then Chilka Lake came into being. Rambha is this is the Panthanivas tourist, government of Orissa tourist bungalow. It's a very nicely located bungalow, which is actually the rear side of the bungalow is on the shoreline of Chilka. And it is very close to the place where I had collected those solution features on the rock. We move from Rambha. Is on the highway, there is a drive of say some 30-40 kilometers to Gopalpur. Gopalpur is located here, but on the way you can go. We pass through this lake, this Tampara Lake, which is, you can see the shape of the lake. It is elongated, parallel to the coast, and the lake does not. Although the lake ends here, but it remains. You can see series of water bodies. These are all dark spots, which are showing the trace of the lake. These water bodies are actually along the this part of the coastal tract is what was formed during the Holocene. And here, the sea level was here at a time when what remained here in the small remnant of the legacy of the shoreline, which when it existed here, and the sea receded, and sometimes it leaves behind small pockets of water bodies, and that has remained here. Now it is totally a freshwater lake because it has no connection with the sea today, unlike Chilka Lake. We have this area also is interesting because you have a lot of heavy mineral deposits in this part near Gopalpur. It is being mined by Indian Rare Earth Limited, and 6 types of minerals are available here. Garnet, selemanite, ilmenite are in good quantity, and in very small quantities, rutile, zircon, and monazite. And the mining actually is, the resources are quite good. Almost 20% of the sand here contain heavy minerals onshore. Offshore, also Geological Survey of India has discovered huge resources of heavy minerals in this area. Ravi Kumar and Mr. Mahapatra were associated with the exploration for heavy minerals in some parts of this area. Next, we also have 3 generations of beach dunes. 3 generations of dunes. This is the present day dunes. This is the middle age dunes. And the oldest dune are the red sands. Red sands which are seen there in Visakhapatnam, in Tamil Nadu, in Kerala. Those were the dunes which were formed when the sea level was lowered during the peak of last glacial. And last glacial maxima was climatically was an arid one. And the dry climate and the huge expanse of the continental shelf, which was exposed to subaerial conditions, and the strong winds all put together made possible the formation of huge dunes. Now, the dunes have been studied by many workers, and recently they have come up with various dates. But generally, it is taken as 12,000 to 15,000 years BP. Because of absence of marine, and even if it is there, you will not get the correct age. Marine radiocarbon dating is not, will be misleading here. So, OSL dating is actually normally done for Red Sea, red sediments. This red sediment is located here. We have seen, and I have got some images also of red sediment. Now, this Tampara Lake is where water sports, boating normally is done. It's also a center for tourist attraction, and people do spend some time boating here because the water is very clean here, and there is no current, still water. Lake Tampara, near Lake Tampara, you have the red sediments. This red sediment was located somewhere near Satpada in the Chilka Lake, and the other one, okay. And this one, on a subsequent visit, when I had taken it in the year 2001 or 2, maybe, I think 2001. And subsequently, when I went there after a, say, gap of 10 years, I found that a good part of it has been removed for the construction of some facility by the government. So this is one area where we need to work. Here also we have the red sediment in Gopalpur and Tampara Lake. This is the Tampara Lake and the other water body which continue to for a good distance here. This part of the coast is also a construction was formed during the Holocene, and you can see the heavy minerals that is found in this area in Gopalpur. After seeing this part of Tampara Lake and Gopalpur, we would normally go back to Rambha, spend the night there, and then start in the morning for going back to Bhubaneswar. Bhubaneswar, then we take a straight drive on the highway. On the way, there is a location where you have this Golbai, very close to Khurda, where a Neolithic settlement has been discovered by the Archaeological Survey and also by the State Archaeological Department. And they have found that this Golbai, they have found a lot of materials which from which they are able to date it to be of 3,500 year BP, 3,500. So, and then the interesting part about this is that they have started cultivation of rice for the first time in this part. The cultivation of rice and many other millets and other, these are the seeds which they have been able to collect from the site of the crop which was being cultivated by these people. And then this cultivation is probably, for them, it was the first time, because until then, probably they were the hunters. So, and these people also developed the use of copper later. So it has, this area has the, evidences of being Neolithic. Neolithic microliths also have been collected. A lot of microliths have been collected from the excavations in this part. What is now, I'm just loud thinking, because this have not been taken into account when these discoveries were, because this was unearthed sometime in 2011. And some people even from Deccan College of Pune had also come, in addition to our own anthropology department from Utkal University. One Dr. K.K. Basa also has worked, one Dr. R.K. Mahanti from Deccan College. All these people have done excellent work for discovering, for interpreting the evidences they have collected from Golbai Neolithic to Chalcolithic settlement. Now, this date of 3500 and the start of cultivation of rice, I'm trying to link it with Meghalaya stage. Meghalaya stage is the latest addition to the subdivision of Holocene, the youngest part, late Holocene, 4,200 years BP. There was a period of 200 years of mega drought that led to collapse of most of the civilizations world over, especially within the tropical and the near temperate region. It is mentioned that all the major civilizations collapsed because of the 200 years of mega drought. And this actually risk associated with food security led people to abandon hunting and go for, because they were not having anything at their hand. They depended entirely on nature for food. Probably, nobody has written about it, and I'm not an anthropologist, or I think because this Meghalayan stage came only very recently, was accepted by the International Council for Stratigraphy. And the reason Meghalayan stage between 4,300 and 4,100 caused a huge absence of drop in the monsoon, in the rainfall, in the precipitation, and that gave rise to failure of crop. So all the civilization that depended on this might have. This has not been mentioned by the workers because Meghalayan stage was not actually known at that time. Meghalayan stage came very recently, I think 1 or 2 years, 2 years before, I think 2 years, 2018 or 17 it came. And these excavations were done in 2011. So I'm just wondering whether this can be a factor why these people started cultivation for the first time 3,500 years BP. These are some of the structures they have discovered at Golbai, settlement, housing settlement. But I have not been able to collect the photographs because they have said that this is a rare, more intact preservation of the site, which these people have dug open. But they say that it is fairly good, intact. After Golbai, which is very close to Khurda, there is another, say, 30 kilometers down to Bhubaneswar, back to Bhubaneswar. Bhubaneswar, there are many places of interest. I have touched only on this Khandagiri and Udayagiri caves. These caves were built by cutting into Artigat sandstone of Gondwana Formation, and it was made by King Kharavela during 2nd century BC. These are two actually hills, Udayagiri and Khandagiri. Udayagiri means rise of the sun hill, and Khandagiri means broken hill. It's a twin hill which adorns the landscape of Bhubaneswar, and it is away from the city, but it is another area, shelter, which accommodated 31 Jain monks. And the way they were constructed, it shows the austerity observed by the Jain monks, because there was no amenity which would speak of luxury, which would speak of greater comfort. it was like small cells with low ceilings and all that, and without any decoration inside, without any, plain and simple for a very austere living. And the monks probably even, they were there only for the sake of, devoted to their life for God. And they and this sandstone from which these caves are carved out. There are 15 caves in one hill and 18 caves hewn into sandstone in the other hill, and it makes a very good, attraction for the tourists, because in sometime in the month of December they have a festival which people from many villages, surrounding this caves come here and assemble. And what is another interesting part of this sandstone is that the sandstone is restricted. Gondwana sandstone, which is known as Artigar sandstone, is restricted to a small area between, say, Bhubaneswar to Khurda, and a little beyond Khurda. It's a patch. It's a small patch of Gondwana sandstone, which has weathered, and a thick horizon of laterite has formed above this. This laterite, because this here you don't find the laterite because this is a hill, and for formation of the laterite you need a valley, is a flat surface where it could hold water, and then percolation through the sandstone, and then chemical alteration taking place, and then give rise to formation of laterite, which is a very good resource for construction of houses. People in the past have been constructing their houses with those bricks, laterite bricks, and it's wonderfully, it is soft when it is cut in the quarry, and then when it is left exposed to the, air and sun, it develops a hard, kind of, the whole thing becomes very hard. I don't know how this process takes place, but then this is what makes the, use of laterite for construction of houses and for construction of even boundary walls. Even today, boundary walls are generally made with this. It is easier and strong, and they cut them into bricks very easily. Perhaps that is one of the reasons why this is being used. With this, now I conclude my talk, and I thank everybody for giving me this opportunity to speak. Thank you, everybody.